Controlling people are powerful. They're dominant characters. It's all about ego and strength. Yeah, it's not. Control, I like to think of control is fear in a suit. Why do I use the analogy of a suit? Suits generally represent authority, or symbolically, let's say, they're symbolic of authority, symbolic of knowledge, symbolic of something or other, which is generally powerful. But have a look underneath the suit. Look at the manager who insists on micromanaging every detail or every movement you make at work. Or look at the partner who checks your phone. Look at the parent running the adult child's life, or the child's life. But I've seen parents do, or I've worked with parents who do this to their young adult children, to the point of almost devouring their own child or killing their own child. Anyway, that's an aside. Look towards the friend who has to choose the restaurant, who has to choose the time, choose the day, always have something to say on it, always have to change some tiny detail. From outside, it reads as power. Often it's pretty irritating. But if you sit with these people for a while, properly, or in a clinical setting, you start to find the opposite. There is fear everywhere. Fear is running through them. Fear, insecurity, and then it starts to get layered because, control is what fear looks like when fear gets dressed up and gets at it and goes to work. The tighter the grip that the control has, the bigger the terror, generally, running underneath it. Then it starts to get layered, it starts to get compounded, because then there's a fear. Not only have I got to control everything because I'm fearful, so I'm going to micromanage everything, control everything, do this, do that, do the other. I'm also going to then start to control, or try to control, not losing control, because there's more fear about losing control. So there's fear within the external world. Oh my God, they're doing this, I better control it. Oh my God, we're going to a restaurant, I better choose it. Oh my God, I can't possibly delegate work out to my colleagues because I need to be in control of it, and not for healthy reasons. And then there's this kind of like, if I don't have control, then even more fear creeps in. So it's a bit like a snake that starts biting its own tail. Nobody's born controlling, by the way. We don't get born that way. We get taught to be that. And I don't mean someone who's controlling teaches you to be controlling. It's an influence. Usually it happens quite early on for people in life, but it can also happen after some kind of tragic event, some kind of violation against them or transgression against said person. Sometimes it can occur after a divorce. I've known that one to happen. It changes people's characters, especially if the divorce is messy, or after the collapse of a business or a career. So somehow the world proves that it cannot be trusted, and that chaos will ensue because it can't be trusted. So you've got, like I said, you've got the unpredictable parent might cause elements of control. The violent parent will also cause control issues. The all-devouring parent will cause control issues. The codependent parent will also cause control issues. The abusive partner who leaves can cause control issues. Like I said, career collapse, job collapse, business collapse, identity collapse of some sort starts to breed control issues and make people very controlling. And as I said, the more controlling they are, the more fear and terror is running underneath that and fueling it. The thing is, for a lot of people, the control brought some kind of order in the first place. So if we go back to a bit, like I say in my forthcoming book, little plug there, trying to solve a problem, okay? You're trying to solve a problem as a kid or as an adult or whatever. You're trying to solve a problem, and the quickest solution is to control the situation, to become controlling. Sometimes people do this elsewhere in their life. So if I have no control here, I will control over there where I can. The really disappointing thing with it, the kind of paradox underneath control, someone having control issues, is it kills the very thing you're trying to protect. If you're trying to protect your relationship, you're trying to keep your relationship going, let's say, with your partner, when you control them, you think you're pulling them close. That's the idea behind it. I control you, I control the chaos, I control any potential outcome, which might bring more fear, might bring rejection, might bring loneliness, whatever fears are behind it. So I control you, and therefore you don't leave. Now, often what ends up happening is they leave. Eventually, or the entire relationship kind of like implodes in on itself because nobody can function in it anymore, because one of them's running on fear, the other one's not being honest about anything because they're like, I can't be honest, I can't share anything, I can't tell you anything, I can't do anything right, all of that stuff. The same as at work, people will just leave. They'll find somewhere where they're valued, where they are not controlled so much, where they are treated with some dignity and respect, and the control is about trying to keep the work going, keep everybody in line, keep everybody happy, blah, 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 blah. And it's not working. It makes things break apart. Now, how long it takes for things to break apart is dependent on if this moves from, control is abusive, but moves from control to being outright abusive in a way to keep someone trapped or keep someone to stay. But then we move into different kind of realms and different areas of relationship dynamics. But control will cause people to, especially kids, to build secret lives. Those are the teenagers out there getting drunk beyond drunk because there's control back home. Those are the the wild teenagers who let loose. It's the partner who lets loose elsewhere, but back in the home around their partner, everybody's like, oh, you're very different around your partner. It's the person who won't tell the truth, the whole truth, because they don't want the whole thing to blow up. They don't want to be controlled. Colleagues will stop bringing, projects to work on because... and they'll stop bringing the truth as well, because again, honesty starts to have to get managed in order to protect yourself against the controlling figure. And what happens is the controller ends up alone. The more they do it, the more they end up alone in a perfectly managed world. To them. To everybody else, it looks like a disaster zone. Like everybody, and that's when people start going, I've got a toxic boss, I've got a toxic partner, I've got a toxic family member. They're super controlling. They're super this. It's really difficult to be around them. They don't treat me like a human being. They don't treat me with any kind of respect or dignity. Like even basic levels of it. And so what happens is the controller ends up isolating themselves. And they will continue to do that thing almost to the point of like severe anxious levels, because fear, which is driving everything, fear cannot relax. Those two do not meet ever. You cannot be a fearful person and relax. Okay? Fear cannot relax alone. Fear drives control. So therefore the person who is controlling is unable to relax, and that nervous system is on the go all the time. Fight, flight, fight, flight, fight, flight. The whole time. There's an element of learning to run a script which solved a problem back then and there, and I know I say this a lot in my videos, you solve a problem back then and there with some kind of maladaptive behaviour or with a behaviour or a way of being which becomes maladaptive later on down the line, because the script no longer actually needs to be run, and what it does is it starts making damage in your world. The way out of it is to start to dig deep, is to start to recognise that you are being controlling. If you're working with your partner who's controlling or has developed some controlling behaviours, I'm not a big advocate of people splitting up just because it's difficult. All right, people change all the while. People go through periods of life which is difficult. Stuff comes up for people. Oddly enough, when people feel safe, it's when all the bad shit from the past starts popping up for them, and they're like, oh, I thought I was past this. And it's like, yeah, but because you feel safe now, it's okay for it to come up. But if you want to work with this, remind yourself that this is a fear-based behaviour. And put that towards them gently. What is it that you're frightened of? What is it that you're trying to prevent from happening? Maybe they're catastrophizing things in their mind. Maybe they were right X amount of years, decades ago, where actually they needed to control the environment because otherwise shit would hit the fan and get real ugly. The thing is to give it a reality check in the here and now. Hey, I'm not going to leave you, but if you keep trying to control me or you keep up with these controlling behaviors, they are going to destroy things between us because I'm already censoring myself. I'm already finding myself hiding from you or I'm bracing myself from you or before I meet you. This is not a great way to be in a relationship. I would like this to change. I want to help you with your fears, or maybe you can go and see a professional who can help you with it. But before that happens, I think you need to recognize it. And if you can't recognize it, we're not going to get anywhere because this controlling behavior is actually pushing me away. Remember, you're dealing with someone who's already running on fear. So it has to be done with compassion and empathy. If anything is going to happen, brutally meeting them head on, going, you're controlling, I don't like this, sort yourself out, is probably really not going to help. Changing your job might help. Sometimes it's the only action you have. It depends on the relationship and who the controller is and what they're actually controlling. Some people, they're only presented with one or two choices, which is leave or change something. When it comes to partners or family members, maybe there is, it's worthwhile to put the effort in and the energy into it to see if you can affect some change in the person who's being controlling. And if you are being controlling, then I would say to you that look at your fears. Look to see if you're actually safe now and give yourself a reality check. Do I need to micromanage my relationship? Do I need to micromanage my workforce or my work or my colleagues? And if the answer is truthfully no, then you can start to relax.